Princess Hana stood before the massive viewing window of her father's palace, watching the distant stars twinkle in the endless darkness of space. The Vellani Empire stretched across 12 star systems, and she was heir to all of it. But tonight, those stars seemed dim and cold, like dying embers in a fireplace. The alarm chimed softly behind her, a message from the communication center. Hana turned and walked to her desk, her long silver robes flowing behind her. The holographic display showed an urgent transmission from a place she had not heard from in many years: Earth. The human ambassador appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. His name was June, and he looked like he had not slept in days. Behind him stood several other humans in dark uniforms. "Your Highness," June said with a bow, "I know this message comes as a surprise. My name is Ambassador June of the United Earth Defense Force. We need your help." Hana raised an eyebrow. Humans asking for help? This was new. Most species in the galaxy saw humans as weak and backward. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The Galactic Council barely recognized them as a real civilization. "The Krex invasion fleet is coming," June continued. "Our intelligence shows they will reach Vellani space in 6 months. They have already destroyed 3 major worlds in the Outer Rim. The Galactic Defense Force cannot stop them alone. The Krex." Hana felt a chill run down her spine. Everyone in the galaxy feared them. They were ruthless warriors who had conquered dozens of star systems. Their ships were massive, and their weapons could crack planets in half. No one had ever defeated them in open battle. "We wish to offer an alliance," June said. "Earth will provide military support to defend your empire." Hana almost laughed. What could humans possibly offer? Their ships were tiny compared to Krex vessels. Their weapons were primitive. Their population was stuck on just a few worlds. But something made her keep listening. The camera moved to show another human standing behind June. This one was younger, maybe in his 40s, with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore the uniform of a military officer. Something about his face looked familiar. "This is Admiral Tay," June said. "He will be commanding our forces." Admiral Tay stepped forward and bowed, politely. When he looked up, Hana gasped. She knew those eyes. She knew that quiet, thoughtful expression. 20 years ago, Hana had been a student at the Neutral Academy, a school where young people from different species learned together. It was supposed to promote peace and understanding between worlds. Most of the alien students there came from powerful families, just like her. But there was one human student. His name was Tay. He was quiet and kept to himself. The other students made fun of him because humans were considered weak and stupid. They said he was too slow and too small to be a real warrior. Hana remembered feeling sorry for him. She started talking to him during their military strategy classes. While other students bragged about their strength and their ships, Tay just listened and asked questions. He was fascinated by their tactical simulations. These were complex war games where students had to command fleets and armies. Most students tried to win by using brute force, throwing their biggest ships at the enemy until someone surrendered. But Tay was different. He would study the simulation for hours, looking at every detail. He would ask strange questions like, "What if we attacked from below?" Or, "What happens if we split our forces into smaller groups?" The other students thought he was crazy. But Hana watched his games carefully. Tay never had the strongest fleet or the best weapons in the simulations, but he almost always won. He would find weak spots in the enemy formation. He would trick them into making mistakes. He would use the terrain and the environment as weapons. One day, a Zenthari prince challenged Tay to a simulation battle. The Zenthari were proud warriors with advanced ships. The prince brought a massive fleet to the game, confident he would crush the little human. Tay accepted the challenge with his usual calm smile. His fleet was half the size of the prince's. His ships were older and weaker. Everyone expected him to lose quickly. But Tay did something unexpected. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, he scattered his ships across the battlefield. The prince chased after them, trying to destroy them one by one. But every time he caught one group, another would attack from behind. Soon his powerful fleet was spread out and confused. Then Tay sprang his trap. All his small groups attacked the enemy command ship at once from different directions. The prince never saw it coming. In 10 minutes, the battle was over. The other Students were shocked. Some said it was luck. Others said the simulation was broken. But Hana knew the truth. Tai was not weak or stupid. He was brilliant. Now, 20 years later, that same quiet human was standing on her communication screen, asking for her help to fight the most dangerous enemy in the galaxy. "Admiral Tay," she said softly. The transmission had a slight delay, but she saw him tense when he heard his name. "Your Highness," he replied. "It has been a long time." "Indeed, it has, old friend." June looked confused, glancing between them. "You know each other?" "We were classmates," Hana said, "many years ago." She turned away from the screen and walked to her desk. Her father would be furious if he knew she was even considering this alliance. The Emperor of the Vellani Empire did not make deals with humans. They were beneath his notice, but the cracks were coming. The Galactic Defense Force had already lost 3 major battles. 60% of their ships were destroyed or damaged. They needed something new, something different. Maybe they needed someone who could think like Tay. "I will speak to my father," Hana said finally, "but I cannot promise anything." "That is all we ask," Tay replied. "Your Highness, the Kreks have 10,000 ships. They have never been defeated. But I believe we can stop them if we work together." "How?" Hana asked. "What makes you think humans can succeed where others have failed?" Tay smiled, that same quiet smile she remembered from their school days. "Because we do not fight the way. They expect us to fight." After the transmission ended, Hana sat alone in her chamber, thinking. Outside, the stars still twinkled in the darkness. But now they did not seem so cold. Maybe there was hope after all. She stood and walked to the door. It was time to convince her father to make the most unlikely alliance in galactic history. The War Council chamber buzzed with angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species sat around the massive circular table, their different languages creating a chaos of sound. At the center of it all, Admiral Tay stood calmly beside a holographic display showing the approaching Krex fleet. Emperor Dravok of the Vellani slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness! You want us to trust our lives to these primitive humans?" General Vex of the Zenthari military nodded his scaled head in agreement. "The human fleet has only 200 ships. The Kreks have 10,000. This is not strategy, it is suicide." Princess Hana sat beside her father, watching Tay carefully. He had not spoken yet, just listened to the complaints and insults with that same patient expression she remembered from their academy days. Behind him stood other humans in Earth Defense Force uniforms. They looked nervous, but Tay seemed completely at peace. "Admiral," Commander Zorak of the Asteroid Mining Guild called out, "explain to us how 200 human ships can defeat 10,000 Krex vessels. We have already lost 3 major battles using conventional tactics." Tay stepped forward and touched the holographic display. The image changed to show the previous battles where the Galactic Defense Force had fought the Krex. Ships lined up in massive formations, firing at each other until one side retreated or was destroyed. "You fight them the way they want you to fight," Tay said in his quiet voice. "Big fleets against big fleets, strongest weapons against strongest shields. You try to match their power with your power. That is how civilized beings wage war." General Vex growled. "Not like cowards hiding in shadows?" Tay nodded politely. "You are right, General. That is how you fight. But the Kreks always win that kind of battle because they are stronger than you. So why do you keep fighting the same way?" The room fell silent. It was a simple question, but no one had a good answer. "What do you propose instead?" Emperor Dravok asked. Tay gestured to the display again. Now it showed small groups of ships moving in complex patterns around a much larger enemy fleet. "We do not fight their ships. We fight their system." Captain Minho, one of Tai's officers, stepped forward. He was a young human with bright eyes and quick hands. "Your Majesty, we have been studying Krex technology from the wreckage of previous battles. Their ships are incredibly strong, but they have weaknesses." The holographic display zoomed in to show a detailed view of a Krex battleship. Red dots appeared at specific locations on the vessel. "Their shields are powered by central generators," Minho continued. "Their communications all route through main command centers. Their weapon systems need constant energy from their reactors. If you can hit these specific points, Even a small ship can disable a much larger one. Impossible, General Vex said. Those targets are too small and too well protected. Tay smiled. Not if you attack from the right angle, at the right time, with the right coordination. The display changed again, showing a simulation of the proposed battle. Instead of two large fleets facing each other, it showed dozens of small human ships darting between massive Krex vessels like insects around giants. But these insects had stings. Phase 1, Tay explained. We use stealth fighters to disable their communications. Once their ships cannot talk to each other, they cannot coordinate their attacks. Phase 2, we use fast interceptors to draw their heavy ships out of formation. They will chase our fighters, thinking they can easily destroy them. But this spreads them out and makes them vulnerable. Phase 3, your heavy cruisers attack from hiding while they are distracted and scattered. Princess Hana's ships, General Vex's battleships, Commander Zorak's mining vessels, all working together in perfect timing. The alien commanders studied the simulation. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Most of them looked skeptical, but a few seemed intrigued. Dr. Susie, a Volani scientist, leaned forward. Admiral Tay, this plan requires incredible precision. One mistake in timing and your small ships will be destroyed. That is true, Tay agreed. But we will not be fighting alone. He gestured to Captain Minho, who activated another part of the display. This showed new weapon designs, modifications to existing alien technology. We have reverse-engineered Krex shielding, Minho explained. Dr. Susie has helped us adapt it to work with Volani energy weapons. The result is a new type of armor-piercing projectile that can penetrate their hull plating. Dr. Susie looked surprised. How did you learn our energy patterns so quickly? We have been watching and learning for 20 years, Tay said simply. Every species fights differently. Humans are good at finding patterns and combining different approaches. Commander Jinwoo, another human officer, stepped forward. The EI plan also requires pilots from different species working together. Human reflexes, Volani firepower, Zenthari sensors. Each species contributes their strengths. General Vex's eyes narrowed. You want Zenthari warriors to take orders from humans? Not orders, Tay said. Cooperation. Each pilot does what they do best, but all working toward the same goal. Princess Hana had been quiet during the entire presentation, but now she spoke. Father, we have tried everything else. 3 defeats, 60% losses. Maybe it is time to try something new. Emperor Dravok looked around the room. The other commanders were still arguing among themselves, but she could see some of them beginning to consider the plan. It was desperate, but they were in a desperate situation. Admiral Tay, the Emperor said finally, why should we trust you? Humans have never commanded a multi-species fleet. You have never fought a real war. Tay was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but clear. Your Majesty, you are right. We have never commanded fleets like this before, but we have been preparing for this war our entire lives, even when we did not know it. He gestured to the other humans in the room. Captain Minho spent 10 years studying alien technology. Commander Jinwoo trained with pilots from 12 different species. I have been analyzing every major space battle in galactic history, looking for patterns and weaknesses. The Krex win because they are strong and they follow the same successful tactics over and over. But that is also their weakness. They expect you to fight the same way everyone else has fought. When you do something completely different, they will not know how to respond. Princess Hana stood up. Father, I support Admiral Tay's plan. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. A Volani princess publicly supporting a human strategy was unheard of. Hana, her father warned. I have seen him fight, she continued. Not with ships and weapons, but with his mind. At the academy, he defeated opponents who were stronger, faster, and better equipped. He won because he thought differently. She looked directly at Tay. The Krex have never faced an enemy like humans before. They do not understand how you think. That gives us an advantage. Emperor Dravok was silent for several minutes, studying the holographic display. Finally, he sighed. Very well. Admiral Tay, you will have command of the combined fleet. But if this plan fails, the blood of billions will be on your hands. Tay bowed deeply. I understand, Your Majesty. We will not fail. As the council session ended and the representatives filed out, Princess Hana approached Tay. "Are you really as confident as you seem?" Tay smiled, that familiar, quiet smile. "No, but confidence is not what wins battles. Preparation and adaptation do, and we will be very well prepared." Outside, through the massive windows of the palace, the stars seemed a little brighter. The Tyrian system had 3 suns, each burning with a different color of light. Red, yellow, and blue stars danced around each other in an ancient cosmic ballet, their gravity wells creating treacherous currents in space. It was here that Admiral Tay chose to make his stand against the Krex invasion fleet. Commander Krell of the Krex Empire stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, studying the tactical display with growing confusion. According to his scouts, the enemy fleet was scattered across the entire system. Small groups of ships orbited each of the 3 suns, with no apparent coordination or strategy. "This makes no sense," his tactical officer reported. "The human admiral has divided his forces into dozens of tiny squadrons. Each group has maybe 10 or 20 ships. They are spread so far apart they cannot support each other." Krell smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The humans had made a classic mistake. Every military academy in the galaxy taught the same basics. Rule: never divide your forces in the face of a superior enemy. With 10,000 ships at his command, he could destroy each small squadron one by one. "Signal the fleet," Krell ordered. "We will sweep through the system and eliminate these scattered groups. This will be easier than expected." On his own command ship hidden behind the largest asteroid in the system, Admiral Tay watched the Krex fleet begin to move. Everything was going according to plan. "Phase 1, he said calmly into his communication device. "Lieutenant Day, you are clear to begin." Far across the system, Lieutenant Day piloted her stealth bomber toward the Krex communication array. The massive ship bristled with sensors and transmission equipment, coordinating the movements of the entire enemy fleet. It was heavily defended, but Day had trained for this mission for months. Her ship was invisible to most sensors, using technology borrowed from the Zenthari. She slipped through the defensive perimeter like a ghost, targeting the main relay towers. With precision strikes, one by one, the communication arrays exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Suddenly, the Krex fleet could no longer coordinate their movements. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation began to drift apart as local commanders tried to figure out what was happening. "Communications are down," Tay's tactical officer reported. "The Krex ships are operating independently now." "Perfect," Tay replied. "Phase 2. Captain Hyun, begin your runs." Captain Hyun led a squadron of 20 human interceptors, small and fast ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. They swept in toward the nearest group of Krex vessels, firing their modified weapons at maximum range before retreating quickly. The Krex commander in that sector took the bait immediately. He ordered his heavy cruisers to pursue the human fighters, convinced he could destroy them easily. His ships were much larger and more powerful, but they were also much slower. Hyun's fighters led the Krex ships on a wild chase around the yellow sun. Every time the enemy got close, the humans would dart away, using the star's gravity to accelerate beyond what should have been possible. The Krex ships spread out as they tried to catch the elusive targets. The same scene played out around all 3 suns. Human fighters would appear, attack briefly, then disappear. Frustrated, Krex commanders sent more and more ships chasing after them. Within an hour, the massive enemy fleet was scattered across the entire system. "They are taking the bait," Princess Hana reported from her heavy cruiser squadron. "Krex ships are breaking formation everywhere." "Good," Tay responded. "Phase 3. All heavy units move to attack positions." Princess Hana's Villani battleships emerged from behind the asteroid field where they had been hiding, their massive weapons charged with energy as they prepared to strike. At the same time, General Vex's Zenthari ships decloaked near the blue sun, and Commander Zorak's converted mining vessels powered up their industrial lasers near the red sun. But the Krex were not defenseless. Even scattered, they still had superior numbers and firepower. Commander Krell quickly realized he had been tricked and began ordering his ships to regroup. "All units, return to formation," he broadcast on emergency channels. "We are being led into a trap." Some Krex ships began to turn back, trying to consolidate their forces. But Tai had one more surprise waiting. "Commander Nara," he said quietly, "activate the gravity bombs." For the past 3 days, Commander Nara's engineering teams had been secretly placing special devices throughout the Tyrian system. These gravity bombs were experimental weapons that created temporary gravitational anomalies when activated. No one had ever used them in actual combat before. When Nara triggered, the device's space itself seemed to twist and bend. The gravity wells around the 3 suns suddenly became chaotic and unpredictable. Krex ships that had been trying to retreat found themselves pulled into uncontrolled orbits around the stars. A massive Krex battleship spun helplessly as gravitational forces it could not understand dragged it toward the red sun. Its engines fired at full power, but the artificial gravity well was too strong. The ship's hull began to glow as it was pulled closer to the stellar surface. Other Krex vessels collided with each other as their navigation systems failed to compensate for the changing gravitational fields. Ships that had been retreating in orderly lines suddenly found themselves scattered in all directions. "Now!" Tay commanded. "All units, attack!" The combined fleet struck with perfect coordination. Princess Hana's cruisers targeted the Krex command ships while they were trapped in gravitational disturbances. General Vex's fighters used their superior maneuverability to dart between confused enemy squadrons. Commander Zorak's mining ships, equipped with weapons designed to crack asteroids, punched through Krex armor like it was paper. The human fighters that had been playing tag with the enemy suddenly revealed their true purpose. They were not just trying to scatter the Krex fleet. They had been painting targets with laser designators. Now every major enemy ship was marked for destruction. Captain Minho's modified weapons proved their worth. The armor-piercing projectiles, enhanced with Volani technology, tore through Krex shields that had never been penetrated before. Ships that had seemed invincible began to explode as their critical systems were destroyed by precise hits. Commander Krell watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. This was impossible. The humans had only 200 ships. He had 10,000. But somehow his forces were being destroyed while barely inflicting any damage in return. "Sir," his tactical officer shouted, "we are receiving surrender requests. From 12 squadrons. They are trapped in the gravity wells and cannot escape." Krell stared at the tactical display. The human admiral had turned the entire star system into a weapon. Every advantage the Krex had, superior numbers, stronger ships, better weapons, had been neutralized by careful planning and perfect execution. "Signal retreat," he ordered finally. "All ships that can escape, retreat immediately." But only half of his fleet was able to break free from the gravitational traps. 5,000 Krex ships limped away from the Tyrian system, leaving behind the wreckage of their comrades and their reputation for invincibility. On his command ship, Admiral Tay watched the enemy retreat with quiet satisfaction. Princess Hana's image appeared on his communication screen, her face glowing with excitement. "Tay, that was incredible. We actually did it." "We did," he replied simply. "But this is only the beginning. Krell will report our tactics to the Krex Emperor. Next time they will be ready for us. Then we will have to think of something new," Hana said with a smile. Tay nodded. "Yes, we will have to be even more creative." As the combined fleet regrouped and began rescue operations, news of the impossible victory spread across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, someone had defeated the Krex in open battle, and that someone was a species most people had considered primitive and weak. The humans had announced their arrival on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. The victory celebration at Volani Prime lasted 3 days. Ships from across the galaxy arrived to witness the impossible, the wreckage of a Krex invasion fleet floating dead in space, defeated by a coalition led by humans. But while others celebrated, Admiral Tay sat in his quarters, studying intelligence reports with growing concern. Intelligence Officer Yuna knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. She was young for her rank, but her skills at intercepting enemy communications were legendary among the human fleet. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," she said, activating a holographic display. Krex symbols scrolled across the screen as she translated the intercepted message. "This was broadcast from the Krex home system 6 hours ago," Yuna explained. "Emperor Vox himself is mobilizing the Grand Armada. 50,000 ships, Admiral. They are calling it the largest military force ever assembled." Tay studied the data carefully. The numbers were staggering. Where the first invasion fleet had 10,000 ships, this new armada was 5 times larger. Every major Krex battle group was being recalled to participate in what they were calling the final cleansing. "How long until they reach our position?" Tay asked. 3 months, maybe. 4 if they stop to gather additional forces from their conquered territories. Tay was quiet for a long moment. The victory at Tyrian had been spectacular, but it was also a warning. The Krex now knew that humans were a serious threat. They would not make the same mistakes twice. A communication request chimed on his desk. Princess Hana's image appeared, along with several other Alliance leaders joining the conference call. "Admiral," Hana said, "we have received the same intelligence reports. The Krex response is beyond anything we anticipated." General Vex's scaled face showed worry for the first time since Tay had met him. 50,000 ships. Even with our recent victory, we cannot match those numbers. "We need more allies," Commander Zorak stated. "The Galactic Council must call for full mobilization." Tay shook his head. "The Council moves too slowly. By the time they decide to act, the Grand Armada will already be here. We need species that can make quick decisions and adapt to new ways of fighting." Over the next several days, Princess Hana worked her diplomatic magic. The victory at Tyrian had changed how other species viewed both humans and the Alliance. Races that had been neutral or even hostile were now willing to listen. The Zenthari were the first to commit additional forces. General Vex announced that his people would contribute not just ships, but their advanced cloaking technology. "The humans have shown us new ways to fight," he declared. "We will learn from them." The crystalline Viridians were harder to convince. They were a peaceful species that preferred trade to warfare, but their quantum computers were the most advanced in the galaxy, capable of processing battle calculations in real time across thousands of variables. Captain Sana led the diplomatic mission to the Viridian homeworld. She was one of Ty's most trusted officers, known for her patience and her ability to explain complex human concepts to alien minds. "We are not asking you to fight," Sana explained to the Viridian Council. "We are asking you to think. Your computers could help us coordinate fleet movements across entire star systems. Think of it as the ultimate strategy game." The Viridians found this idea intriguing. War was terrible, but strategy was a form of mathematics, and they loved mathematics. They agreed to provide their computational power to the Alliance. Meanwhile, Major Kang was working on the most ambitious project yet attempted, creating new ship designs that combine technology from all Alliance species. In secret shipyards, hidden in asteroid fields, human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to build vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These new ships were smaller than traditional battleships, but packed with advanced technology. Zenthari cloaking devices made them nearly invisible. Volani weapons gave them incredible firepower. Human tactics systems allowed them to coordinate with surgical precision. Viridian computers provided real-time analysis of battle conditions. But the most important development was not technological, it was cultural. For the first time in galactic history, different species were truly working together as equals. Human pilots trained alongside Zenthari warriors. Volani engineers shared their secrets with Viridian scientists. Ancient rivalries were set aside in the face of a common threat. Tay spent most of his time in the training facilities, watching as crews from different worlds learned to work together. It was not easy. Each species had their own way of communicating, their own combat reflexes, their own ideas about military discipline. But slowly, something beautiful was emerging. Mixed crews that combined the best traits of each species. Human creativity with Zenthari precision, Volani strength with Viridian intelligence. They were becoming more than the sum of their parts. "Sir," Captain Jinwoo reported during one training session, "the mixed squadrons are showing remarkable improvement. Response times are down by 30%. Accuracy is up by 40%. Tay nodded, but his expression remained serious. "It still may not be enough. The Krex have learned from their defeat. They will adapt their tactics." His fears were confirmed when Yuna brought him the latest intelligence reports. The Krex were abandoning their traditional massive ship formations. Instead, they were organizing their Grand Armada into smaller, more flexible battle groups. They had studied the human tactics from Tyrian and were preparing countermeasures. "They are learning from us just as fast as we are learning from them," Yuna observed. Good, Tay replied, surprising her. That means they are taking us seriously. Fear makes people predictable. When they try to copy our tactics, they will make mistakes. Princess Hana arrived at the human command ship 3 weeks before the expected Krek's arrival. She had been traveling between worlds, building the alliance and coordinating defenses, but now she wanted to be here for the final preparations. How do you really feel about our chances? She asked Tay privately. They were standing in the observation deck, looking out at the massive fleet that had assembled. Ships from a dozen different species floated in formation, their different designs creating a beautiful tapestry against the stars. Tay was quiet for a long moment. I think about something you said once, back at the academy. You asked me why I always chose the weaker side in our simulations. Hana smiled at the memory. You said it was more interesting that way. That was part of it. But the real reason was that the stronger side always fights the same way. They rely on their advantages and expect them to be enough. The weaker side has to be creative, has to find new solutions, has to fight with everything they have. He gestured toward the fleet. The Kreks have been the strong ones for so long, they have forgotten how to be desperate. But we know what desperation feels like. We know what it means to fight when everything depends on winning. And that gives us an advantage? Tay nodded. The biggest advantage of all. We are fighting for something we believe in. The right of free peoples to exist. The Kreks are fighting to maintain their empire. Those are not the same thing. A communication alert interrupted their conversation. It was a message from the long-range scout ships positioned at the edge of the system. Admiral, the scout captain, reported, we have contact. The Kreks Grand Armada has arrived. 50,000 ships, sir. They will be in weapons range in 6 hours. Tay straightened his uniform and walked toward the bridge. Signal all ships. Battle stations. It is time to show the galaxy what we are really capable of. Princess Hana followed him, her heart pounding, with anticipation and fear. The next few hours would determine the fate of every free civilization in the galaxy. Everything they had worked for, everything they had built together, would be tested in the fires of the greatest space battle in history. But as she watched Tay calmly issuing orders to the mixed crews of humans and aliens working together on his bridge, she felt something she had not expected to feel. Hope. Emperor Vox of the Kreks stood on the bridge of his flagship, the largest warship ever built. Around him stretched the Grand Armada, 50,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation. This was the culmination of centuries of Kreks military might, assembled to crush a single upstart species and their alien allies. Report, Vox commanded, his voice echoing through the vast bridge. My Emperor, Admiral Keth replied, our scouts have located the human homeworld, Earth. Intelligence suggests Admiral Tay has concentrated his entire fleet there for a final defense. Vox smiled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. How fitting. The humans will die on the world that spawned them, and the galaxy will learn what happens to those who challenge the Kreks Empire. But 50 million kilometers away, Admiral Tay was putting the final touches on the most audacious military gambit in galactic history. He had indeed brought every allied ship to Earth, but not for the reasons the Kreks expected. Are you absolutely certain about this plan? Princess Hana asked for the 10th time. She stood beside him on the command bridge of the human flagship, watching as Earth's defensive systems came online. No, Tay admitted honestly, but certainty is a luxury we cannot afford. Sometimes you have to trust in your friends and hope that desperation breeds genius. The plan was insane, and everyone knew it. Instead of meeting the Kreks in deep space where they could maneuver freely, Tay had chosen to let them come all the way to Earth. The human homeworld would serve as both the ultimate trap and the ultimate motivation for his forces. Over the past month, Earth had been transformed. The planet's surface bristled with defensive installations designed by the greatest engineering minds from every Alliance species. Luna Base had been converted into a massive weapons platform. The asteroid belt had been seeded with automated gun stations. Mars had become a fortress world. But the real innovation was invisible. Dr. Susie and Captain Minho had worked together to create a quantum communication network that connected every allied ship, every defensive platform, every weapon system in the solar system. For the first time in warfare, an entire star system would fight as a single, coordinated organism.